Hello humans, hello humans. We're in the sand car here. It's like a little after 8, like 8:15 or something on Thursday. Got some good coffee and we're heading down to do a bit of shopping and paying some contractor people. I say we because it's the dog and I, so we may get some little bit of disruption here, barking wise. Very cold. We usually have cold Aprils here on the beach anyway, but you know, we're getting into 34 in the on the beach at night, so it's so pretty cold. All right, so I'm having to move tons of computer equipment and do all kinds of stuff like that. Got all kinds of physical labor kind of stuff I've got to get done, and that's really cut into my schedule for other activities. I have a few more appointments in this coming month inland, some distance away from the coast, so I'll be able to make some more audios, but they're going to be a little irregular because the schedule's not under my control. So we'll see. Hang on a second. There we go. Anyway, I wanted to talk about victims. Okay, so we're coming into. All right, so let me back up. There is law, and then there's justice, and the two are not the same. Okay, and in my way of thinking, you can, if you work very diligently, achieve justice out of law. Okay, but it's not guaranteed, and it's not usual. And the normal course of events, justice occurring out of law is at an emotional level weaker. Okay, at an emotional level on the individuals involved, but also the general population. Justice that emerges out of law is weaker than justice that emerges out of the populace. And so we see this the other day with, there's a video being circulated now, and it shows a guy in New York City, a black man, bashing an Asian woman in the head, and this black man immediately gets set upon by 3 or 4 guys, and then it turns out to be about maybe 10 or 12 over the course of events. They knock him down and eventually knock him out, and everybody comes along and kicks him or punches him or whatever, right? And so that is street justice. He committed a crime. It offended the social body around him. The toxic males, the protectors of the social order, took action, and it was done. It was over, right? Now, would he ever have been prosecuted? Probably not. And so law would have yielded no justice whatsoever. This was instant street justice, instant vigilante justice, that kind of thing. Now, imagine this same situation of this, for whatever motivation, this black man runs on up and bashes an Asian woman in the head in a state where there is licensed concealed carry or open carry. And the justice level will be swift. There won't be a need for bashing people, and you'll have to call for a John Wick style dinner reservation, right? You'll have to call someone to come and clean up the mess, take the body away. That is coming. I think we're within 40 days or so of that, right? Really, it's about 36 according to the data sets I'm looking at now, but of course timing on those is questionable at best. But in any event, it is coming. We're seeing this generalized trend of increasing social justice and reaction this way. And so it was assault when he hit her, when that guy just came on up and bashed her in the head. That was assault. So a crime indeed was committed, but there was no formality or anything. But now we have justice meted out, and the guy essentially very much paid for his crime. And so look at England, all right? So in England, one of the videos coming out now is of mobs of migrants, okay, invaders, mobs of them that are throwing shit at the police. And the police are just not really reacting. They're just sort of taking a defensive posture near a building and basically taking it all. And so this is a country on the very verge of lawlessness. And so maybe it will be the case of it will start in England and not Sweden. Our data sets had said that the actual war between the natives and the invaders would begin in Sweden, but you know, maybe technically we can say it's already happened because Swedes have had to move the military in to quell the gang violence in some of the ghettos where the invaders from Ethiopia and Somalia had taken over the territory, displaced all of the native population, and are living in a closed ghetto situation. And the military had to come involved and be involved. And so that technically could be the start of this in Sweden. But in any event, so it'll get to England, it'll get to Ireland. We will see street battles, okay? Like 1870s in New York used to have street battles between the Irish and the Italians and blacks. And they would be big mobs, you know, several hundreds of people out there fighting, several hundreds of men on each side with various kinds of weapons used to go on out in these battles in the East Coast cities, a lot of them in New York. And we'll see that again. This time we'll be seeing it coming out of Ireland and England. And the street battles in England, I don't know how they're going to go, right? But in Ireland, it looks like the Irish are going to be fierce enough that there will be a great slaughter of brown and black-skinned people in Ireland. And just leave them in the street. In fact, it's going to get even worse than that because some of my data sets suggest that we're going to have like these warning signs, okay? So in the past, when there was vast quantities of chaos and stuff in Europe, and you were attacked, the village would repel the attack, brown and black people in Europe. It's going to get really ugly. And that ugliness is coming here to the United States. And we will have many, many, many months of this, all right? So maybe we will have okay, so there's different, you can categorize it in different phases, but maybe our upcoming period is going to last 3 years of street violence, okay? But there will be a period of like 7 or 8 months of it that will be like Saigon in the last days. So it's going to be seriously disturbing to people and very seriously disrupting. There's a real possibility we won't go that route, but that's going to depend on our SOC and our self-organizing collective that's back there behind all of the Q stuff that supports Trump as CIC, all of this kind of stuff, right? Our continuity in government. So now that could kick in, and if we have a large enough core of loyal military, it could shorten this period of chaos and maybe even eliminate it if the military gets out there and starts rounding up people in a mass deportation effort and goes through all of that kind of chaos and histrionics. Then that will short circuit the need for the populace to do it itself. So it's indeterminate at this stage as to which route it would go, but the amount of release language and building tension language associated with dealing with the migrants will escalate, and to cover, and it covers either condition. So that escalation of violence could be the government being violent, or it could be the populace. It'll be against the invaders. It's going to get, like I say, very ugly. We will see a radically transformed social order over the next 10 years. And it'll be radically transformed at the core key levels in generations. So the Generation Z, I guess they call them, right? That generation and the one that follows it are going to be severely impacted, altered, changed by what they're going to go through over these next 5 years, right? See battles in the streets and that kind of thing. So we're all Gaza now, we're all Gazans now, and the Elohim, the Israeli Rabbinical Council in Tel Aviv, has ordered the immigrants, the invaders, to attack us and seize our country, and so we're going to fight back. Now, the good news for me is that the data sets show that a lot of the people that are responding to this attack, the SOC especially, are going to be very pragmatic and deliberate, and will deliberately target the Elohim worship cult. They'll deliberately target rabbis. So the rabbinical councils everywhere in the USA right now are under military intelligence observation. Many of them, not the councils, but many of the synagogues and stuff have been infiltrated and are being intensely watched. Okay, so this is not news to them. They know this is going on. You just don't know it. But it's going to get that deep, right? So there will be rabbis, enforcers for the Elohim worship cult, whatever you want to call them. These organized criminals will flee the United States as this shit erupts. Now, my data sets from way back when, like 2006 and 2007, were pointing out that we would have periods of time where whole Jewish enclaves were under attack. And it's difficult to sort out the data. You get all different kinds of confusing stuff, and it's only in hindsight that you can say, oh, look, it went this way, not that way, but the language described both in sort of a, it covered both of these developing situations, and it could have gone either way. And so in this case, we will have attacks, but it could be that we're not having mobs of invaders that the Israelis are carrying out, but rather could be military rounding up criminals within these Jewish enclaves, right? And so we can't tell from the data sets. All it says is, that there's going to be people going and attacking housing subdivisions and areas where there are ensconced, or we might even think of as like armored Jewish organizations. And it'll be the organization that will be the target, and that it will cause the disruption of these Jewish enclaves. So it could be that we're going to have mobs of people out there running around deliberately attacking Jewish housing complexes and subdivisions and stuff in more Jewish areas in the East Coast. Or it could be that there are going to be targeted hits in the rounding up and the exportation, the expulsion of these criminal rabbis. If they get rounded up by the military, I don't know that they're going to be expelled, right? So a lot of them are going to go to jail. And that's why I think once that starts, many of them will flee rather than hang around and wait to be arrested. Going to be quite chaotic. And this will last all through this year, the rest of this year, and into 2025. The level of disruption at this stage anything we say is going to have a tendency to minimize it. Okay, this could be quite disrupting at all different kinds of levels. So we'll see some of these people. All right, so because of who is being targeted and the structure of our social order in this, because of the Elohim worship cult and its control over businesses and stuff through the Jewish community, we're going to see a large amount of business disruption. So people will flee to Israel who own businesses in the United States. And then we'll have non-Jewish senators and representatives who will put forth laws, bills, in which will say, oh, you can't be a dual citizen, and you can't be a dual citizen of the United States with Israel. But even beyond that, we'll have things saying no Israeli can own a business that operates in the United States. And so Israelis will have to have like special permission for their business to do business with us. It's going to get that weird. That I expect maybe 2026, 2027 as things really come out as to what's been happening. So it's going to take us a couple of years to get out and really name names, but we're getting into it now as we get into Fauci and some of these other people being arrested and prosecuted. Holy shit. He was trying to pass. He was a motorcycle going like fast anyway, but he was trying to pass a line of about 9 cars. Anyway, so we're getting into this period here where it's going to pop off. And so I'm thinking we're within 38 days of the pop-off point. Sometime in these next 38 days, which brings us up to about mid-May, we're going to have an incident that will spark other incidents, and then we're off and running. It's going to be really weird. It's not going to be like intermittently. It'll be taking the news, right? And of course, Whoopi Goldberg is going to just shit herself with the number of incidents going down and the way in which it goes down. So you're going to see a huge reaction to all of these events within the dying mainstream media for these next few months. That will, of course, you just have to, it's got to be the opposite of whatever they're saying, and you're covered, right? You understand it. Oh, look, there's Sasquatches, yes. So, like I say, going to be fairly interesting that way. I've got a lot of data sets here, a lot more data than usual because of an arrangement I had made with some people that are outside our country and outside of the purview of the Elohim worship cult and their effect on things. Anyway, so the data sets are suggesting that July 15th or 16th, it's going to be a UFO episode, more language than you personally experiencing a UFO. You'll experience it vicariously through someone else videoing it, and then all the language and discussion about it. 15th or 16th of July. Whatever occurs on that date, though, is indicated within the data sets to be a temporal marker, a precursor, indicating that we're going to have the riots that have long been forecast, and they'll be showing up in August. Now, these may be fake riots engendered by the Democrats. I just don't know. They're saying the data sets are still describing it as a food riot kind of a situation, desperate need, desperate people, that kind of thing, that then liberates, accidentally liberates documents and understandings about UFOs. Hang on a second. Got a butthead here driving right on my bumper. So I don't know what his issue is. But I have to be aware that there are stalkers and people out to get me. So anyway, just on that note, just fair warning, people. I'm always armed, and I'm an old man, so I can't afford to fuck around. I got to take you down as far away from me as possible because I really don't want to have to risk injuring my body beating the shit out of you, right? So I'll just I'll put you down, and however far away you are, 100 feet, 30 feet, whatever. Okay, so he left. It's hell to have to live that way, people. A car comes on up and it's too close to you. Is it just some guy with his own little road rage issues going, or is it one of these fucking Jewish stalkers? And by the way, with one exception, every single one of the stalkers I've had, we've had 6 so far, have been Jewish. Now, riddle me that. How's that happen? Jews are less than 2% of this country. I can't, but of course I'm pissing them off more than anybody, so that really makes sense at that level. I've heard that the rabbis think that, oh well, I won't go into that. Anyway though, so July 15th, some kind of an event, 15th, 16th, I think maybe that's a Sunday. I don't know, I'll have to go and look on a calendar, but there were data sets again indicating that we've got, it's getting into the day level. So for instance, our crash in the market is going to be a Black Tuesday, okay, not a Black Monday. No, it's not going to take down cryptos. No, it's not going to take down gold and silver. Joe's dream is Joe's dream, but it's not reality. So anyway, we'll have a Black Tuesday. I think it's in May, and I think that's when we get our the market oscillating, the stock market, NASDAQ, that kind of shit, right? It oscillates up and then crashes, and that either liberates all of the information about rehypothecation, or the rehypothecation itself causes the crash. You can't tell, right? They're just temporally coincident. And then, okay, so July 15, 16, something happens. About a month and 5 or 6 days later, we get a brouhaha, which is described by the data sets in such a way that I'm taking it to be a riot. It liberates some documents, and or there are documents liberated at that time. I mean, it doesn't necessarily mean that the documents are actually coming out of the center of the riot, although they could. We just don't know. But it could be that, at the same time we get these particular riots, we have, Congress releasing a bunch of UFO documents that would satisfy the conditions. So, but in any event, so it's going to be a very event-filled summer and lead us into a very serious fucking fall. Now, we now have built into the cake, or I shouldn't even use that word, but we now have built into our future, we have famine. Okay, so there will be areas, large areas with no harvest this year because of what the Elohim worship cult has done in the destruction of the farms and so on. But we're going to see this kind of thing over these next couple of years. Klaus Schwab, all of these kind of guys are in real deep shit because as this stuff pops off, the SOC, the Self-Organizing Collective, is savvy enough not to waste our time with the minions, and they're going to go right after the people on the top. So, there will be orders given from the Elohim worship cult, and they'll say, go off and do this and do that, and create this chaos and so on. And when the chaos happens, there will be people that will understand this as a temporal marker, and then those people, part of the SOC, will go off and we're not talking just in Austria or Switzerland or wherever. We're talking about full-on assault on them all over. And so this will be part of the period of time when we have the attacks on the synagogues and all of that. So when Klaus Schwab releases it, he wants the attacks on the synagogues because that's going to favor his program, right? But what he's not prepared for is this response at the level of the individuals taking out the actual mother weffers themselves, right? We know who they are. Wouldn't surprise me to see people like, Trudeau targeted, and all of these people that are listed in the Elohim or listed in the mother weffers young leaders thing, right? And they're just going to be they were so stupid to put their faces out there and do it that way. Anyway, I've got to get the dog out here, and then I've got to go and do my chores. Maybe I can do another one of these on the way back. It's interesting and disrupted day. Major clam dig here. All kinds of stuff going on, and it's supposed to rain. We had huge chemtrailing yesterday. Couldn't believe the number of layers they put up there. And remember, guys, and we're coming up to it, guys. So anyway, so keep looking up. May is Chemtrail Awareness Month.